Hello, guys. How's it going? I'm going to restream the part of the conversation I had with Brittany Simon the other day. My internet had a hiccup. I don't even know if it was my internet, but the stream fucked up. I restarted my computer and it was fine. No fucking idea. I need to figure why that happened, but regardless, here it is. So I'm going to stream that for you now. And I'll be around in chat. So let's get on that, baby. Just let me get my link out. Gotta get them links out, baby. Okay. Without further ado. Here you go.
And then like you have to do you have to do the things that make you a person. Physical, spiritual, mental health. Like you think you're just fat because you decided to eat too much? No, that's trauma. What was it? Like nobody wants to be 300 fucking pounds. It's trauma. What is it?
Yes.
Same with anorexia. You think you got there for funsies? You think you just decided not to eat and deny your biology and evolution? Why the fuck are you not eating, Eugenia Cooney? Obviously, it's trauma. Let's talk about it. And then mental health without philosophy is useless. You can go to a therapist for 20 years and never get better because you never had a foundation to fall back on. Going to therapy is great, but what good is it if you don't know your values, your expectation of morals and ethics, if you don't know why you're existing on the planet? What good is going to therapy without that?
Okay, so you need to go. You need a. Okay, my stream is back. Okay, I know someone is in my chat. Like I know your chat doesn't fucking care, but so I know like someone said unwatchable. To be honest, fuck you. Okay, just do it anyway. I'm gonna fix it. Okay, I know this is horrible. Okay. Okay, the person, what they need when you say you need your values and shit, where does that come from? They need somebody who can teach them how to have values. They
Yes.
know. So those men those men that, oh fuck, it's 0.
The universe hates you.
Now it's 3,000. Those men
When
that
you
want
say-
to those men, now it's 6,000.
But
Now
when
it's
you say
2,000.
they need someone to teach them, you know that's why they write books. That's why there's documentaries. That's why there's radio shows. That's why there's YouTube. You still have to pick as the consumer who you're learning from. Those
Yeah.
people don't just come into your life.
And if you fail, then you waste your whole life.
No, there's no failure. There's no waste of a life. There's only you living in a moment. There is no wasted life.
Well, that's true. I agree with that. But if you pick the wrong one, you fail at the thing. So those guys that want to be parents, those guys that want to be parents, they pick the wrong person, and they will never have fulfilled the thing that they actually wanted to be fulfilled, and they will spend their life compensating for it and focusing on other things to cover it up and repressing things. And maybe a lot of their advice that they will get, it will be about repressing, and they will get advice that's going to make them more miserable, and they'll even be attracted to con artists who are going to like make them worse on purpose. And
Which is why I say you have to go towards your joy and not your happiness, because that's temporary. A joy is proof in the evidence of your life. Karma is not you do good, you get good. Karma is what is reflected in what you've done for your life reflected back to you. So if your life is telling you you fucked up, it's still about you. You fucked up. So you can change the course of your life because of the work you put into it, right? Like it's not your whole life because you've made a mistake. It is not your whole life because you have a past. It is only your whole life if you continue the moment.
right, I'm only saying it's your whole life if you actually like die miserable and you didn't.
But it is what it is. Someone has to die miserable.
Sure.
It's a part of their story. That's their story.
I
You're
want
taking, like-
people. I want people to be able to just be fulfilled. And
Why?
so what I no so what I'm saying is these people that have like like there's a guy, he doesn't have custody of his kids, but he just knows from the bottom of his heart he wants to be a dad, and he knows he's missing something, and he knows that's what it is. And there's a lot of really bad advice that he can get that's going to make him continue to feel that same exact misery and never actualize his goals. He won't learn the right values to even embody what he wants, his desire. And that is not on him for not having the right values. He's been misled, and I think that you're giving people too much of this free will thing. I feel like we are ping pong balls.
I disagree.
Okay.
I think people like to be ping pong balls. I think I let people be who they are. Like, humans are going to human. We're going to do what makes sense to us. And like, when I look at a family, when I look at a sibling who's doing the thing you're saying, and I go, hey, you don't have to do that, by the way. And they go, no, I have to do this. That's them going through a journey that I can't interrupt because they're doing it. I can't make them do anything more than what they want to do or what they think they have to do. I went through a whole, we're just like reacting to reaction stage in my life. That was my 3 stage. And then I remember thinking like, okay, how do I stop reacting? And then I went down the practice of like, what is living in the present? What is evoking free will? But that came from my need. If I didn't do it, Smeth, I would have unalived myself. Yeah, that was the point. Most people are not going to unalive themselves, right? Most people are just going to keep going through life being miserable, which is their journey. So to stop it, they first have to want to stop it. You can't go pluck them out of their journey. They have to first decide they want to change. Then they have the tool gathering stage, which is work. And most people get burnt out and don't want to do it, which is a part of their like bubble experience, which is life.
But some people get the wrong tools, and what I'm saying is,
yes, we all do. You act like I didn't get the wrong tools 1,000 fucking times.
Well, sure,
that's what I'm saying.
Sure, but
you're not radically accepting that it happens to all of us.
So
I
what
got
if
the wrong tools
but what if
my life?
But what if you got the wrong tools, and those wrong tools got you a good paying job? Now you're in a position where you're going to be really confused, and it's going to be way harder. So so I think that we are all born. Like, fundamentally, I think we are, to me, it's very clear that we're all born a ping pong ball. And this ping pong ball, your parents mold it to fit, like, so they give you skills or whatever. And some people grow legs and wings and have so much more freedom to exercise what we can perceive as agency. And some people have way less freedom, and they're still ping pong balls, and they haven't learned those types of things. And a lot of people want to make money off of building a ping pong machine for ping pong balls to go through. And I want people to get to learn the skills to not be in that. But I don't think that the people that are still ping pong balls, you know, maybe they're like 1s or 2s or whatever. I don't think that those people can aim at that. They don't know what direction they're going to go when they hit the bumper.
Yeah. So you're explaining what I would call 2s, right? Like, we're all living in a world, and we're born into a bubble, an expectation, and we all think this is the whole world. We think this is it. Everything that we see and perceive is the only option we have before us because it's what we know. It's the limited information we know, right? But then the question of the introspection journey is like, are you going to pop a bubble, which you have to desire and question? So that's the 5th thing, right? Like, who you are in the story. Who are you in the anime? You have to ask yourself, like, if I watch a cartoon or an anime or a movie, which character am I in the story? Like, which one am I? Am I the guy who never leaves his small town? Am I the guy who like abuses his wife? Am I the guy who's like an entrepreneur but sad with all my money? You have to ask yourself, okay, like, who am I in the story? And this is a great tool for anyone to have, to be introspective and say, oh shit, I think I'm the angry guy who goes to work and is like really self-deprecating.
No, but that doesn't. Yeah, sure, but they think that's just. Look, I think we've already established. Like, I think that doesn't, because the people that if that in itself is the tool, I know what you're
Not
saying.
the tool, a tool.
I know, but I know what you're saying, and you're saying to be able to see it clearly, where you're like, I'm actually an angry asshole, right? But a lot of those people, if you put them on that path, like they're gonna be like, oh, I'm Goku.
Yeah, of
You know,
course.
so
Yeah.
they, if you tell them to think about their story, it's like kind of like what you were just saying. If you just send everybody to therapy without a vision or without values to embody with the therapy,
Hmm.
then they could be just reinforcing like bad shit.
Hmm.
That's totally possible. In particular, like that's known to happen with like certain like personality disorders. Like
Yeah,
that's, and so
I agree with you.
you're telling them to be able to see it, and that's your advice. But I'm saying, I'm saying
No,
that
but that's
how
you're
do
doing the thing. I agree with
how
you.
do they learn to
Right. How
actually
do they
see
do
it?
that?
Yes.
Right. Okay. So again, you can't see something unless you want to see it. This is the hardest part of introspection. People think they're introspective. And they are to a degree, enough to survive, enough to land themselves a good job, enough to have a good relationship, enough to like kind of manage life, enough to be depressed. You're introspective enough to know when you're depressed sometimes, right? Like people are introspective. Babies are introspective to an extent. They have an awareness of self, right?
Okay.
It's a spectrum. I know what you're saying. You're saying how.
Wait,
And I'm
no,
saying you can't.
I've got a break. Okay,
Okay, go.
okay. So I've got a different model then for how I view
Okay.
this. So when you say introspective, and that's your spectrum, I'm looking at it more in terms of people who are repressed and people who aren't. And I think that all of them want to, with all those desires and stuff. Those like when you're like a little kid, like a lot of those that shit is out there, and you learn to hide it. You get beaten down by the world, and you want, and eventually you settle on trying to be Andrew Tate instead of being happy. And because you're oppressing like everything, you're like, well, I can't like my wife won't fucking suck my dick, but at least I can make some fucking money or something like that, you know. And you, like life wears down on you to where you repress all of these true desires deep within you, and until you're completely blind to what you actually want. And so I think the goal is, I think that all these people actually want to see it, but that want is buried deep within them. And the way to help them, I don't think they are helpless and they don't actually want it. I think that they do want it, but they cannot see the forest through the trees.
Why do you think they want it?
Because I think it's repressed. I think we're born wanting it.
Why?
Because I see a lot of people that are really expressive, really thoughtful, curious people as teenagers, and then they stop being that. And I don't think it's gone. It gets just buried.
I think I empathize with that, but I will say a part of my journey was radically accepting that humans were going to human and that they don't want it because they would have gotten it if they did. Because people can give them all the tools in the world and they still won't do it. What I instead, and this is my belief, I think we're evolved animals on a planet and we end up in this ecosystem and we have a relationship with that ecosystem and ourselves. And the relationship we have is dictated by biology and expectation and culture and our relationship with our knowledge and how our brains function and whether or not they compute information in whatever capacity they can. I think people have inherent desires based off their biology and intellectual ones based off their introspection. And I think people combine those two things and then end up at whatever stage in life they end up in. So people go on a journey and then they eventually stop somewhere or they don't. But not everyone continues growing. Not everyone continues introspection. Not everyone continues. A lot of people stop, which is why I think most people are twos, because they stop eventually and land in this bubble that they think is everything that's ever existed. Like you're going to go on a panel tonight and argue with a bunch of people over gender because they're all in a bubble where they think gender plays a role. That's a construct they've decided on, right? So I look at them and I think, should I come pull them out of their bubble and pop it for them so they can change and be better? Or do I have to accept that they just want to be there? You think Destiny wants to be better? Or do you think Destiny wants to be comfortable? You think Max wants to be better? Or you think Max wants to be comfortable?
Well,
You think anyone
that's
wants
the
to be
thing.
better?
That's the
Everyone
thing.
wants to be comfortable.
Okay, no, yes. So that's the thing, though.
Mm-hmm.
The part of them that wants to be better is like, so when like, they are comfortable because they have learned to repress these things so that they can be comfortable.
It's
So
not loud enough. I would argue it's not a true desire because it's not a big enough part of them.
okay,
When
then
that part of
then
them that wants to be better is big enough, they will.
but then our disagreement here is really just a perspective, or like but we're seeing the same thing. But I think
Yes.
but I cry for that part because I think that it is beaten out of us, and I think people being comfortable, I think we get beaten into that, and we are unable to see it because we're terrified to do anything but that.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly. Because fear is the root of all evil. And until you face yourself and face your own stagnation, which is your fault, your responsibility, even though you're reacting to the world around you, you will not need to change. Which is why I think people choose and get comfortable because it's their easiest path. I could never get comfortable,
I
so I
disagree.
had to keep going.
I disagree. Well, I'm pissing you off.
No, you know what it is?
Yeah.
It's like you're on the other side of it. So I'm saying, yeah, you're over here, and I'm saying this is why I say humans are going to human it. It's a radical acceptance. It's you saying you cannot do this. You think you can because everyone thinks they're Jesus. And if anyone, if people just had the right tools,
Well, no, I don't. Okay, no,
try.
actually, I don't think it's like. I think I have the same outlook about it as you of practicality, but I am weeping more for them, because
Sure.
fuck, I had.
I think that's about you too, though. I will project myself onto you a little bit, and I'll say like that's the key everyone has to go through, which is to radically accept you cannot control anyone. You have to let them do their life and weep for them all you want, but you're weeping for yourself. You're not weeping for them. You're weeping
Yes,
for
of course,
yourself.
of course, of course. But
Right.
that's what
And
it
I'm
is. So when you
saying,
say
get
when you
over
say
it.
when yeah, but the part that I just disagreed with that
Yeah.
is because when you said it's that they need to realize that it's them.
Mm-hmm.
That's I strongly disagree, because I think what they need to realize, and interesting, but what they need to realize is actually, so like when they go to therapy, if they actually somehow are able, still have a spark left, and they are able to follow that spark, that they're gonna realize that, oh, it was my dad, like that my dad made me hate, like my dad made me hate
Your dad didn't do anything. Your dad was a person like you are, and he was living his life.
the
and that
reason. No,
impacted you.
because they're gonna you have to dissect the reason for the things that you're repressing, and to be able to pull them out, you have to find what they're buried under,
Yes. But like you can't until you stop blaming, you cannot heal. It's not about, oh, my dad did this to me. It's like, oh, my dad lived a life in which he did these actions and these actions impacted me. But my dad didn't do them to me, even though he hit me. He wasn't doing them to me. He was doing them to himself. Because like he produced me or he raised me and he was having this relationship in the same way. Like when I lash out at people, I'm lashing out at myself, right? A version of fear, of a relationship I'm having with my
Sure,
consciousness,
but when
right?
you do that, you're parentifying the person, because you're saying that they are, like, I think to tell somebody to think about their parents in that way, while interesting, and it's not worthless to do. I think that in the context of dissecting yourself, it's not useful to do that. I think it's useful to think about why your parents do the things that they do, but when you're thinking, and it's also helpful to analyze yourself, but when you're thinking about why do I hate washing dishes, because every time I wash dishes I got beaten, and you didn't, like,
Right.
that's an easy example, like pretty
Right.
clear, but like if you don't even realize that, maybe like you have some sort of amnesia about it or something, like you don't have to, like, you need to be able to say the cause
Hmm.
of this fear is trauma. And to say that it's
Yes.
trauma, like I don't think you should. And so if you were to say that the trauma is them, I don't think people should define themselves as trauma. Um, I think that the best scapegoat, the gift that this is something I believe that you might disagree with, but I think that the gift that a parent gives to their child is the gift of being the scapegoat for the child. I really do think that, because like not like as a child, but like later in life when you because that lets you let go, and I think that's important to do because you can't identify with the trauma. It's impossible to not traumatize your kid in some way. Okay, like in some way you're gonna, like in some small way, and
Life is traumatic. I think
yes,
the goal is harm reduction, not harm eradication,
yes. So
right?
so you shouldn't identify with the trauma. So if you're not gonna identify with the trauma, you have to identify them with the trauma. They
Wrong. You identify the trauma with the species that is human and the reality that all of us are interacting with one another and we're all hitting each other, which I agree with, but we can stop that momentum. That's why you break generational curses if possible. That's why you stop the generational curse. You don't continue the cycle. But to not continue the cycle, you have to stop the momentum of what you said earlier about being ping pong balls. Stop the momentum. And I know I'm stopping the momentum with my family in a small way. Like I'm slowing us down because I'm saying, hey, if we don't like change, we're going to continue this onto the grandkids. And now we see the changes with them. But that took me slowing down and stopping it from happening. And I don't need to blame my parents. I think that's a part of it though. You go through stages of validation. Oh my God, I'm traumatized. Holy shit, I have a personality disorder. Holy shit, my parents are pieces of shit. They gave me this personality disorder. Holy shit, it's not even their fault. They probably have personality
of
disorders.
course.
Wait, oh my God, we all have trauma. Oh, wait, we all have trauma? Oh, okay. Everyone's just on a journey. Cool. Everyone's just on a
But
journey and we came across each other and caused pain and then we move on with it, right?
but you've returned to ping pong ball though. When you
A
say
little
that,
bit, but you stop the momentum. So now you're self-aware and you're able to sit in that without blaming, without hating, without, and this is the end of it. You're right. You're focusing on the beginning of the journey, and I'm trying to prove there's an end to the journey. So my work has to say, of course, there's a beginning, but there's also an end. Because most people know how to start people off, but they don't know how to finish it. And I'm saying I finished enough to get you to here where most people aren't. So yes, we're gonna start with radical exception. So when I do a call with someone, I say like, "What's your thing, bro? Like, what's your thing? Why'd you call me?" That's the first question. Is like, "Who are you? Why'd you call me?"
I'm the
And then they
most
usually,
enlightened two in the whole world.
"Ooh, me?
Me, no,
Oh,
that's
you."
my goal is to be the best two. So like I
Sure.
can reach
You
down.
see, a two only can impact the people, and all of us can only impact the people that we know and understand. So when you say, like, I want to help these people, the question you have to ask yourself is, why haven't they helped themselves? And if you think it's just their
Because they're
environment,
dad, because they're mom.
okay, yes. But then what happens when you realize it's not their dad or their mom? It's life itself.
The way I process that is there's nothing you can do about it, and like you don't the way I process that is you don't identify with the trauma, like kind of like what you're saying, but I just have a different way of organizing it.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say like my I see my comments a little bit and they keep saying like they're doing similar things but in different ways and like we are ultimately. I'm just saying like for my work specifically, I think people always get stopped at that. They go for validation. I hate men, I hate my parents, I hate women, I hate everyone. These people did it to me. And then they stop there and I'm saying and go to the other side of it, which is no one's to blame.
Okay, well that's where your needing of the values um, is important, because it doesn't stop there, because why do you need to learn about where the trauma comes from? Because you want to get from A to B, and
Yes.
you can't just stop. Oh, I'm
Yeah.
traumatized. You have to say no. I'm traumatized because, and you realize that you're traumatized because you want to not be traumatized. So
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
Yeah. Now, I will say, because I'm a mom, I take on the desire to also end generational curses, which is a big fucking deal. So when I got therapy and I realized this about my life and my parents, I was like, hold up, let's attach this to philosophy. And I was like, hold up. So my parents are me on a journey. They're just people. They're not parents like in some magical way. They're just me, but old. Okay. Cool. So then I went to my parents and I was like, hey, I have this thing. They're like, you don't have this thing. There's no such thing as this thing. My kids don't have things. And I'm like, okay. So now I'm dealing with parents who don't believe in things. And I'm like, how do I communicate what I learned in DBT to them? I just did it. So when my mom was like, I need to talk to you. And I was like, I'm open, but I have boundaries. I actually need to go home, but I'll talk to you tomorrow when I'm not crying. She was like, what? And I was like, I'm going to talk to you tomorrow when I'm not crying. And she goes, what do you mean you're not going to stay here and fight with me? And I was like, no, I'm not. And then I would leave. And that was really hard for us because normally we would stick it out and fight it to the end. And it never got us anywhere. And it wasn't until I started putting down boundaries that I learned in therapy that my mom got better, my dad got better. All of us got better as a family, even if they don't recognize what I've been doing. It shows in the way we're raising our grandkids now. My nieces and nephews are getting a much better go about it. You know what I mean? They're getting a much better, but it doesn't mean that like I'm like an amazing savior. It means like my family also decided to accept the tools I gave them. They actually said, okay, yeah. And my mom the other day goes, Betsy, I think I might have anxiety. And I was like, holy fucking shit. Like, that's a big deal for my mom to say, I think I might have that. And I was like, oh my God. And like, she still doesn't go to therapy, but she like took a tool her kids gave her and said, Mom, I think this is called anxiety because I have that. And my mom's like, what is anxiety? Like, what does that mean? You know? And when she identifies with it, it doesn't define her because she's so afraid. Conservatives are so afraid of being identified with their illnesses. Don't identify with the cancer you have. Don't identify with your borderline, right? Maybe like for language purposes, it's easier. I'm a borderline, but don't actually identify with it. Look at it like this thing that you have to have a relationship with. This thing that is just in this moment of time with your consciousness, right? It's just like a thing that's happening, and then have that relationship with it, which is what I think you're ultimately saying,
It's
right?
like basically it's kind of like I think you just look at it like an illness or like a
Yeah,
foreign body almost.
of course.
And okay, I want to ask so in my journey, you know, from like a meager like whatever the fuck I am to the great and powerful Bernie Simon, it was a 5 or whatever, right?
Stop.
No, okay, I'm being facetious.
Of
Um,
course you are.
okay, but so in my journey, I feel like I unlock a new either a connection between things in my childhood or something, or a new like memory and how that impacted me. And I will have like epiphanies like that in moments in therapy where I'm like, whoa, there's a whole other thing I need to process that I didn't even realize. And I feel like that can be like, and then I move past that thing, but then there's
Mhm.
always another one.
Yep.
And because as something else happens in your life, something else is now confusing that you never knew would even be confusing until that moment.
Mm.
And then you need to figure it out all over again. And I feel like that's like a lifelong process.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's like I imagine like a spider web, and I'm like slowly taking all the webs, and I'm like, oh, there's a new thing. Oh, there's that. And I'm like, it's
Yes.
slow and delicate, and it takes my whole life. I'll go through my whole life, even being married, even being happy, even being like joyful has like I got my PTSD triggered last year because I was so happy, and I was like, what is this? And I was like, all I was thinking was like this man I've met that I'm in love with, please God, don't let him be a rapist. I was like, please Lord, let him be a good person. Lord, let me tell, like, is this my person? And I was like so excited, but I was like, and then I started like hyperventilating in my own chair. I was alone in my room, and I was like, oh my God, what's happening? And I was like triggering myself, and I was like, stop it. And so I could see myself getting triggered, and I was like, oh, that's so weird. You're so happy. Why the fuck are you triggered? And I was so afraid that I was making the wrong decision, even though I was so sure this was my human. I just like, I'm a human. I could make mistakes. And we met so quickly, and we courted so quickly, and our family, everything just
That's
happened so
scary.
fast. It's so scary. And now I'm sitting here, I'm gonna cry. Oh my gosh. But like the relationship is so good. Our marriage is so good. Life every day is so good that I'm like, holy fuck. Like I feel like I found that thing they write about in books where I'm like, oh my God, I found my thing, my person. Like there's many people I could have been my person, but like I found one of the many people.
Mhm.
And we made a life together. And like there's something I couldn't have been though the Brittany I was a few years ago and found this person. I had to transform. Like I had to become this person to be with this person. And same with him. Like, we're older, we went through a journey, like he's already done his work. So by the time we met, we could be together. But I had to transform. Smith, I cannot tell you how toxic I was in my 20s. Like maybe not compared to some people, like, I never like cheated or beat my partners or something. But I was in toxic relationships. I allowed people to like, and it was trauma. It was like childhood. So when you ask yourself why, just know like when you find an answer, there's going to be 10 more whys.
Yeah. Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah,
know?
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not. It's like, and people like when they hear that, they will be dismissive because they'll say that you are defining yourself as those things, and you're constantly like building a castle of trauma. No, no, no. You're taking it apart so you can throw it away,
Mm-hmm.
and like
Yes.
so every time that happens, you
Mm-hmm.
be like you find like that's where I was saying it's just those people that have so much buried, because every time that happens, it's like you found like maybe you realize something. I realized is I have this weird anxiety about singing. I
Mm.
rapped on last stream, but like that's different.
Yeah, I
Like
saw a little bit.
it's
Mm-hmm.
singing that is like
Mm-hmm.
specifically, and other people singing it makes me feel like, how dare you feel like you can do that and like feel confident in something. And going through that process is how you like unlock like my ability to sing is like something I need to unlock, because the thing that's stopping me, because I wasn't always that way, and I need to like that it's not, I'm not trying to like throw that over my shoulder as another burden to carry. I'm trying to take that off my shoulder so that I can fucking sing. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
unlock a
No,
new an ability with that you've lost.
yeah, I think that's why it's so difficult, because I know when I'm working with people and they'll ask me questions like, is it okay that I'm a little overwhelmed with the introspection stuff. Can I like take a break? I'm like, yeah, that's a part of the journey, bro. The break is the journey. You're not taking a break. You're not, there's no break. You're not taking a break.
Yeah.
You're just doing something different. Like it's all just the
But
moment.
that's
And I think it
confusing
does,
though.
yeah, it is confusing and it is overwhelming. Like I think because people think of introspection as like going to the gym, you're taking a break from the gym, but you're not, you're giving yourself a break as a part of the introspection. It's saying like, I'm
Yeah.
gonna dignify my spoons or my energy and give myself a moment.
I've
You're
got an
giving,
example.
that's how
I've
powerful you
got a
are. Go ahead.
perfect example for personal experience. For me, a couple times, like a like 5-6 hour long masturbation session has been good, because
Bro.
like so like I have like a couple times like had like erectile dysfunction
Mm,
after like a sexual experience, and then looking at like porn, and I'll still like have, and then like I have to like like, and that like it like you see, no, you that look on your face, I love it. But you like I'm like I'm reconnecting with myself when that happens, because like if somebody will like throw dirt on top of something that is like
mhm.
part of me, and then I'm now like looking and jerking off, and I'm trying to connect back with myself.
For sure.
And so like even like a goonin for 6 hours could
Hmm.
be what you actually need.
I agree with you. Well, I think that's why I found BDSM to be such a good meditation practice, because BDSM allowed a space where you could kind of be like metaphysical and spiritual, meditative with the practices of what people just think is like orgasming. Like I never did sexually focused BDSM basically, unless I was with a partner who wanted to, but it wasn't. Then, so when you do a scene in BDSM, you ask yourself, like, is this a scene for me or scene for you or scene for us? So if it's a scene for Brittany, I focus more on like pain and how I can handle pain. But if I'm with a different partner, it might be like how long they can be edged, or like how long they can do this, or like how long. So it's like you're challenging yourself, right? You're saying to yourself, like, how do I have a relationship with myself in all these
Yeah.
capacities? And like that's what I always want to know. Because again, the greatest mystery is me, right? Like I'm like, how do I know myself? How do I
Yes.
know myself? And so there's always more to know. And I see myself like going through transformations where I'm like, okay, I've gone to this point. Like being a 5 is not the end of the journey. Being 5 was just to say that I'm no longer seeing myself strictly through my identities. That's when I'm a 2. So if I talk about politics, okay, I'm back in like queer bubble, I'm back in the feminist bubble. I'm like, what's up? Policies are being enacted to take away our civil rights. How do we get them back? And then I'm like, when I'm done in that bubble, I hop back into 5 bubble where I'm like, what is a consciousness? What is my fingernail? What is the thing that is me? Like, what is this? What is this? What is this? Like, that's me. That's a different relationship I'm having. I'm having it with me in relation to the universe. Like the bubble, I always say, like, we're in a bubble of the universe. All of humans live in like the bubble of universe. Because if you like zoom out, like, we don't even exist, right? Like, if you zoom out, we're not even in vision. Like, you can't see us. It's only when we zoom in that all of a sudden I'm a Brittany and you're a Smeth and we're having this conversation. Like, what is this conversation? Right? It only exists because we're having it, but like, it also just like doesn't matter. But it's very exciting and my audience loves it and I love it and I'm like stimulated by it. But it's just like a moment in time. Like when we're 80, do you think you're going to remember this conversation?
Yes.
Okay, that's going to be interesting. I think I will too, to be fair. But I think I'll still be on YouTube. I do. I think I'm going to be 80 years old.
That
I'm like,
sounds.
what up?
Well, like we do that to be really interesting. There needs to be more 80-year-olds who are like that would be really interesting because yeah, we don't have enough voices. Because I want dude, that would be so helpful to have an 80-year-old Brittany Simon. Or like in you know Destiny 80 years old.
Sure.
What does he have to say? You know, like,
Yeah.
really.
Well, I mean, there are corners of the internet where I do watch a bunch of old people. Like yesterday on my stream, someone goes, "Do you think you'll be streaming in your 40s?" I was like, "Guys, I'm 40 in 5 years." Yes, I think I'll be here. Like, what the fuck? Like, I'm gonna be here until
Yeah.
I can't be here. Like, I think this is too exciting. And I watch so many podcasts with old people. They're like some of the most interesting people, right? Because they have like this whole
Yeah.
life they lived.
As long
It's not about like
as long as they're not too beaten down. That's when it gets sad.
well, that's the thing, right? It's like that's important to watch though and be like, okay, do I want to be this old person? What kind of old person do I want to be? I always ask myself that. What kind of old person? I want to be an old person on OF. I want to be an old person walking around naked. I want to
Yeah.
be an old person. Like I already know that about myself. And I told my husband, I was like, get ready, girl. These saggy titties gonna be on the internet forever. And he was like, cool. And I was like, great. Like awesome. Like that's important to me because I do think about old Brittany.
Yeah.
And I want her to be free.
There needs to, honestly there needs to be. I know, bring it back to stupid gender shit, but there needs to be women teaching people how an old woman can be hot. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's true. And also like I think you always end up growing and transforming into a new version of yourself. So like when I made my levels, they were just there to simplify something that I was experiencing with my co-author. Like we just had this experience we wanted to like convey to our friends and family. And so we conveyed it to our friends and family and then I was like I'm going to convey it to the internet. And he was like, okay, I'm out. I'm going to go do my own thing. I was like, bye. And then I conveyed it to the internet. And I was like, anybody else? And now there's always like more to the journey. I just don't need to level it because like, why would I level the rest of the journey? Because to me, it's like leveling it is a two thing. I feel like the levels are a two language to explain this phenomenon. And
Well,
everything
hold
after this is about transformation.
So,
I do. I
so much of
even
shit.
call-
Okay, so when you say that though, then you're kind of that you're kind of like saying that because the levels piss people off.
Yeah, I know.
But if it pisses them off, that means that they're above it too, right? Because no.
No.
Because what I was thinking was if the levels are pissing people off, then they're saying no, you're trying to box me into a two thought pattern or something.
No, they get mad because they don't want to be a two because they think it's bad. They think I'm moralizing two-ness. And I'm saying being a two is fine. It's great. It's good. I'm saying the whole point is like there is no reason to be a five unless you're meant to. It's no reason to be a two unless you're meant. There's no reason to be anything unless it's a part of your journey. I'm saying there's a way to know yourself. So you use the levels to kind of understand yourself. And then you realize like it doesn't even matter. Like I always say, what's the group? If you hear a conversation of a group of fives having the conversation, it's either silence or they sound like twos. There's nothing to talk about. What is there to talk about when you know like we're all just like sitting here on this like little planet doing our thing? Like there's nothing to talk about. Like being a YouTuber is very difficult because again, the reason people watch you is to have conversations where you're arguing for a point so they know where to fit themselves into. Which YouTuber do I identify with so I know how to think? And I'm saying like what if you just think for you? But they can't.
Yeah.
They need someone to tell them. Just like you said earlier, right? They need the person to tell them, like the tool.
Yeah, they need a model.
They need a model. And I'm saying my model is saying you can be whatever you want, which is too much for people to handle. Because now they're responsible for being whatever they want. And then the thing they end up being, they say, this isn't what I wanted. And I was like, but isn't it? Because you ended up there.
If this was a private conversation, we wouldn't be talking the same way at all.
Probably not. Well, it would be sort of similar but different. There'd be like a 10% difference.
I would be way
on
less,
my end.
I would be like way less passionate about a lot of things too.
Probably. Though I do get passionate already. I'm Middle Eastern. Like I probably would get loud anyways.
Yeah.
But I talk more bluntly. Like I'd probably give you more personal examples or I'd reference YouTubers in a much more different way. And I'd talk about them because I'm aware like they could be watching or they could be clipping this or like their viewers could be clipping this. But if we were in private, I'd probably be like, okay, you remember when this happened on the internet? Let me tell you. So this was happening here and this was happening this way. Not things that are secrets, but things we could talk about it differently.
Well, what I mean is like we would, I'm not, I'm talking to you because like talking to somebody as a YouTuber is because it's interesting, but it's not because I'm trying to, like, I didn't come to talk to you because I wanted to figure something out or learn something. I'm coming to talk to you because I want to make content.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
what the fuck is
I'm
being,
doing a little bit of both, right? I want to talk to you, but also I'm like, cool,
of
content,
course,
collabs are great for views.
but
This is
it gets
awesome.
internalized and we feel it, right? So like we get excited by it, and like so the actual the actual content of the conversation is interesting and it's exciting, and it's exploring in a different way that you normally wouldn't.
Hmm.
It's really an interesting thing. It's an interesting perspective. It almost is a third person perspective, to, yeah, it's, yeah, it's interesting. If
Yeah,
I
I think that's
was,
why. Go
if
ahead.
this
Go
was
ahead.
in private, I would have end a lot more thoughts in that's interesting and then not go more into it because I don't have any reason to explain it. The only reason I'm
Mm,
explaining it, because it's not like I need to prove
yeah.
something to you. So
Yeah, I'm talking. Okay, my partner asked me this the other day. He goes, "When you're talking to people, are you talking to the people you're talking to, or are you talking to the audience?" I was like, "Both." So when I talk to Tom or you or anyone else, I'm also talking to my audience. And sometimes this is a problem I run into because I feel like YouTubers don't actually talk to Brittany. They're also talking to their audience or their ideas. I also don't talk to them sometimes. Sometimes I'm talking to my audience through them. Like I'm using, like my audience will say, "Oh, Brittany, your thoughts become much more clear when you're up against somebody who disagrees with you. Now we get it more." And I'm like, "Cool, I'll use more people to explain myself to my audience or my ideas." But I don't even care. Oh, this sounds bad. If the content creator I'm talking to is like, gets me. I just care if my audience gets me better because the content creator is there to use as a sounding board. But I also know that they're doing that to me because of the way they box me. So it's like, okay, like it feels mutually beneficial to us to do that.
yeah, I often find that if I'm talking without a sounding board,
Mm,
it's like it's like, I'm embarrassed about it, but I need someone else to start talking so that I can remember more of my thoughts. And as soon as the other
sure.
person starts talking, I'm like, oh, now I remember. Okay, shut the fuck up because I want to know what I wanted to say. Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds a little ADHD of you or like
Oh,
something, but
very
like,
ADHD.
yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Probably.
Okay. Yeah, that
Thank
makes
you.
sense.
Thank you for identifying
Yeah.
that so I can feel better. Yeah.
There you go. Like, there you go. Well, I will say too, and I'm also aware that you have a panel after me, and I'm like, okay, I wonder how much longer he's going to want to talk, and
Oh,
like,
it's
is there
fine.
anything I want to say to him, and like all of that stuff.
I one thing I'm passionate about that I've had this thought multiple times that came up earlier, and because you're like the type that is like can talk about this type of thing, I honestly feel like I want to like write a book or a like or make a series or something about um using masturbation to recover from erectile dysfunction.
Sure.
Because when you said like challenging yourself, like what you have to do, what you got to do, like in short, is you gotta
Hmm.
like use bare minimum stimulation in as many creative ways as you possibly can, and figure and bare minimum stimulation, like visually or like what you're reading, and bare minimum, and figure out exactly what it is that you care about. Because
Mm,
do you actually know what it is that's actually happening that makes you aroused, or what
mm.
like what about the situation is making you aroused? Because I feel like most guys don't actually know and they take it for granted, and then it goes away and they're like, what's going on? You don't know what's going,
Yeah.
you never knew what was going on. You have to figure it
Hmm.
out. And yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like I again like using like BDSM dynamics or even like the relationship again, I always think like what does this mean? Like why am I even into this? Like why am I into this kink or why am I into this thing or like what is happening? One weird thing I discovered about myself, which I was thinking about yesterday because I was masturbating, and I was thinking about this thing. I get turned on by me I think I fantasize about me getting things done.
Getting things done, that,
So like I masturbate
yeah,
about like yeah, I think about myself like working out or getting videos edited and I'm like I get turned on by a couple
like a
accomplishment, I
like a
think.
Quaker almost, like channeling your sexual energy into like said, like the Quakers were known for making great furniture, and they were
Real
also like,
okay, well there you
yeah,
go.
so like
Okay.
they wouldn't have sex, so they would channel it into their like
Oh
craftsmanship.
nice.
So
Okay. Okay,
it's
there
a
you go.
kind of.
Yeah, kind of, I guess. But like, yeah, I don't know what it is. I remember one time I was watching The Big Short. Have you seen that movie? It's about the '08 crash.
Mm-mm.
And I was like getting turned on by the movie. And my partner at the time was like, "Are you getting horny?" I was like, "There's something about the '08 crash that really just gets me going." And he's like, "What is it?" I was like, I graduated high school. I was starting my like working career. I was like, "Why didn't I buy a house at 12 years old?" I was like, "Oh my gosh." And like something about people predicting like economic crashes just makes me turned on. I think it's like the idea of like getting ahead in the game or something about this is why I'm an entrepreneur, right? It's something about like, ooh, what game are we playing that gets me going? But like it's not that's what I mean. Like even masturbating to me, I don't know if it's even sexual at that point. Or is it just like neutral? Is it like that's something that I always wonder about myself, like, why is masturbating about getting things done so hot? Or why is that fantasy so hot, like getting things done? And that's always like, I
What
just assume it goes along with my whole
what I've discovered about myself is what I need is for I need to know that my partner, um, my pleasure, they want me to have pleasure, not just for them. Like,
mm,
and knowing that is really hard. And I think a lot of time with women, it is hard to find and like confusing because a lot of women feel exactly the same way. And so like women feel like they have to like make him come in order to feel gratified. And if that's what they want, then that undermines my ability to know that they are caretaking me in a way that's like either not selfish or that like I need to just feel
mhm.
like it's like I need yeah I need some type of acknowledgement of my sexuality that is like loving, that isn't for them, you know? It's
Yeah.
and that's what I've learned about myself.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
that's why I
ultimately,
need a goon. That's why I need a goon sometimes. Because sometimes I experience the opposite, and then I need to reconnect with imagining that I'm getting that and what that feels like.
I will say this makes me like my brain correlates it all back to like intimacy, and that's why introspection is so uncomfortable because it's intimacy with the self. It's why we do masturbate to like shut our brains off, or we play video games, or we do all these things because I think it's like a form of intimacy that's scary. Like I always look at video games for some men as like self care, but I think sometimes like women we self care into destruction because we're not actually like being present in the self care. And I think it's because we don't want to be present with the intimacy of the self. Like most people don't want to have a relationship with themselves. So what they do is they volunteer and help other people. They become therapists and help other people. They become coaches and help other people. They dedicate their life to volunteering and talking about how we have to help society because they don't want to actually have a relationship with themselves. It's easier to help other people than yourself. And so I'm just like, I want to encourage people to be more intimate with themselves, even if it's uncomfortable, because like I don't think even a lot of men are even given like women definitely have more avenues for that, I think, than men, from my understanding.
I've got a question that I've been wondering about you along those lines, like a really
Hmm.
big question for me. So because it's a question about me, but so like because I've noted for me, my content is about me figuring myself out. Do you have is are you making content also to help you? Because like I was saying earlier, like how talking to you is like a different way to have a perspective on a conversation that allows a lot of different avenues and perspective. Are you using your content to grow as an individual?
Oh yeah, definitely. Since yeah, always. Like I think since the moment I started posting, it's always about me, right? Like it sound like such a narcissist, but it's always about me. It's about well, my joy is like my curiosity, and my curiosity is in the self, and my curiosity knows I need other people to refer to the self. And so this is like a great opportunity for me to know myself. My whole life has been a dedication of me finding myself since I was like 8 years old. Like, who am I? Who's Brittany? Because everyone keeps telling me who I am. And everyone is just a little bit wrong in a way that I'm like not comfortable with. So, how do I understand myself? I start with myself, I refer to others, and then I go back to myself with the data. So, I'm just like constantly collecting information about myself. Some people give me really interesting feedback, and that's fascinating. And sometimes I think it's right, but it's always somewhat wrong or totally wrong. But yeah, this content is for me and it's for people who are in my category of person. Realistically, if you're like me, you are also wanting to know about you.
Yeah,
And that's what I
because
want to help people figure
you're
out.
modeling
Right.
that. Yes.
Right. And it's not narcissistic in a bad way because a lot of people will say like you dedicating your life to yourself, like that's so narcissistic. I was like, yeah, but I will tell you this right now. Everyone seems very unhappy dedicating themselves to other people, which is why I say the road to hell is paved in good intentions. That's a good saying, because you dedicate your life to helping quote unquote other people and you just cause more destruction. I wish people would help me less.
I need to make a distinction here with narcissism.
Yeah.
That there is absolutely a recognized thing like healthy narcissism and recognized
Yeah, for sure.
healthy sociopathy even. Like
Mm-hmm.
and when narcissism is unhealthy is when it's like a deeply, so like all people who are leaders have to have a high degree of narcissism.
Yes,
Um,
I agree.
but what narcissism is when it's unhealthy is it's a like a pathological, like a lack where you fundamentally don't know how to be a person without getting other people's insight constantly, and you affecting other people is the only way that you feel like you have an ego at all. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like that, so it causes you to impulsively have this interaction with other people that could potentially be harmful with them. So when you're
Mm,
talking about like healthy narcissism, you're not talking about having an impulsive, like, I mean, an impulsive manipulation routine with
no.
people. You're talking about something that's like completely healthy, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, I think it's in the evidence that it is healthy. So I look at my life and I always ask myself like, "Oh, am I engaging in like toxic behavior?" And I just look at my life. How am I doing daily? How are my triggers? How is my health doing? How's everything doing? Why do I meditate? Why do I go into seclusion? Actually, in my 20s, and I talk about this all the time, I spent my 20s like always out of the house, always socializing, trying to find myself. So I gave the impression to the world that I was like this person naturally when I'm actually just quite introvert. I'm a YouTuber. I just want to be at home. I don't want to leave the house. If I wanted to leave the house, I wouldn't have been a YouTuber. Like, you know what I mean? But because I left the house so much in my 20s, everyone thought that's who I was going to be forever. Then I turned 30, found myself, like really felt like, okay, now we know who the foundation of Brittany is as a consciousness. Got it. I got enough input from the world. I've got a foundation. Thank you. And then that person secluded herself into a forest. And now this person is like living in Croatia, never leaving her home, except like to do fun stuff, which is going to the supermarket and getting bread. Everybody slow down. Okay, like that's the fun stuff. Buying dessert, like splurging
Oh,
on
that
food.
sounds
Like
like
that's
that sounds like a Britney version of BDSM for me.
let's go. What?
I don't know. You were saying like getting shit accomplished or something
Yeah,
like a,
oh, that's true. Like, yeah, getting
yeah, you
shit.
get
Yeah,
oh
okay,
that
that's
oh,
true.
grocery list
That's
time.
true. It's like, yeah, I get to like reward myself with like, oh, okay, okay. So, okay, so that's like that's what. But now, even people like I'm in my like my research era. I'm gonna be here till I think I'm in my maybe early mid 40s, where I'm like I just want to know information and consume and listen to audiobooks and hang out on YouTube and do my thing. But everyone's like, when are you gonna meet us here? When are you gonna party with us here? But I'm like, that Brittany has done. And then like you have to do you have to do the thing.
Okay, well, that's all I've got. The conversation at that point, we wrap it up, but that's for some reason where my VOD ends that I have. But I mean, there was only a couple more minutes. What was the last thing she said? No, nothing happened. It's okay. It's okay. What was the last thing she said? What was the last thing she said? I'll tell you what she said after that. What was it? What was it? What was it? What was it? If I click
Does that
on
make
this and I click B,
you a person? Physical, spiritual,
no,
and
I have to change the settings on my video player so that I can. She said, "How do I write women so well?" That's a good question. You know, it's a popular thing, a popular notion. I forget who to attribute it to, but it's a popular notion among authors that you should write about what you know. And as an autogynephile, I know more about being a woman than anyone else in the whole world. So, am I a writer? I mean, um, I don't have a lot of stuff out there, but I take pride in my writing when I do write. You disagree with a lot of what Brittany said, but you like her conversational style. Yeah, she's a good conversationalist. She's a good listener. Um, she has some very strong opinions. Um, I don't agree with all of her opinions, but she can definitely have a conversation. That's for sure. Yeah, I've taken like 6 poetry workshopping classes. And I've taken a bunch of creative writing. So basically, like an honorary writer. Not really though, but I enjoy writing. When I do. She's great content, challenging. How do you guys feel about the word content? I don't like it. I like it, but I don't like it as a positive description. To me, content is the word content is a byproduct of the state of the media that we watch, where like JRPGs are designed now to take up as much of your time as possible. Gotcha games, streaming. A lot of these things are very disrespectful to your time. And I feel like the word content is a good word for describing just what you just put on, because you can't stand sitting alone in silence. Like, wouldn't it be better to call it a stream or a video or a production is a fancy sounding word, but anything other than just content. Content is a blanket word that could apply to anything, and it's just something that the content. If I put a bunch of sand in a box, that's content, baby. It's the content of the box, and it's just stuff that fills a void. And I don't like referring to people's artistic endeavors as the stuff that fills a void. It's just so demeaning and shows an utter lack of care. I want to try not to refer to my work as content. Anyway, have a great night. Now this is up. People can watch it. I'm going to change the descriptions so that each one of these videos links to the other. On Sunday, I'm going, I think at 10 p.m. on Sunday, EST, I'm going to be on a panel talking about polyamory. The Destiny and Melina drama came up as a potential topic, which is very related to polyamory. And I'm still working through what Max said about it, because I don't really agree with him, but I don't know what he's talking about, because I think that it should be talked about regarding like what Destiny is doing to Melina. Like when he says he might nuke her, he's saying he might nuke her to stir up a shitstorm, because he says he didn't say he might nuke her. He's like, I'm not gonna. It's not like I'm gonna nuke her, is what he said. And so it's like, oh, so you would nuke her? Like the other shit that he said is that she has like found someone else or whatever, and like he hates that guy, and he's realized he always he's just like saying mean things about her for like no good reason. seemingly, and it's just like he's just trashing on her. She's found someone else. He's trashing on her, and he's like, "It's not like I'm gonna nuke her. I'm just gonna talk about it, but it won't be a nuke." He said it in a very ambiguous way. He's just trying to get people to start riling up and shitting on her. And I think that that's absolutely something that's worth talking about. And so if that is included in what Max was saying, that is irresponsible to discuss, then I disagree with him. Because if that's the case, then he shouldn't have written the Destiny report. But he did. Good night, everybody. Or have a great rest of your night, Smeth heads.